Welcome, episode 25 of the Inside Sports Podcast. It's me, your host, Cole Daly of the Daily Egyptian. Am I even really the host anymore? Because I've had so many time restraints.
You're a king.
That I feel
You're
like
a king.
No,
you are the host.
No, I feel bad. I think I am one of the co-hosts, Cole Daly, editor-in-chief of the Daily Egyptian. We've got co-host Joey Bernard here, graduate assistant, and then just some guy. He doesn't get the host title. Don't worry. He doesn't get the host title.
I need to make like a clothing brand called Just Some Guy.
I feel
like that would sell pretty well.
Right. We're going to go ahead and check in with our dogs at the vet. Softball went 1-2 versus UNI. First series loss of the season, I was going to say. Isn't that what you expect from the softball team? Joey B., tell me a little bit about that matchup.
Yeah, we just ran into some very good pitchers. UNI has a very, very good pitching staff. I think we underestimated them going into the season. I actually looked at the, I think it's called the RPI, like top 200, 300 ranking for like all softball. And going into the series, SIU was at like 60. Oh, no, excuse me. It was like 58. Wow. And then UNI was like 70, and that completely, it basically flipped. We're at like 70. UNI is at like 52 now. So
interesting.
Just after that series, that tells you the type of confidence. Now, I don't know how much you want to bank off of just a list like that, but it tells you that UNI is a lot better team than we anticipated. Maria Groff is still doing her thing. She got Softball America's Freshman Pitcher of the Month. That's terrific.
Isn't that something? That's awesome.
That's awesome. And I was saying on the podcast last week, she's second in the nation in ERA, right? But she's only second because the person in front of her, at least as of last week, had 4 appearances. Maria Groff has like 20 now, 22. Mm-hmm. So, to me, she's number 1 ERA in the nation. That's terrific. But this week, it was the offense that kind of blundered. A lot of strikeouts. I have listed here. They had 9 strikeouts in the 1 loss, and then 11 in the second loss against UNI. We managed to salvage the
Can you do a little Cole baseball lesson to me? What is it when it says forward looking? What does that mean?
So a strikeout swinging or a strikeout looking.
So it's when they don't.
When they don't swing.
Yeah.
So it's a strikeout either way if you get 3 strikes.
But you don't want to be looking. You want to be, if it's a strike.
You want to go down swinging.
That's right.
You at least want to go down swinging. So I think that's.
What? What do you like? Because I don't know my.
This is great.
Because I don't know my softball.
This is great. No, this is great.
I don't know my softball.
It's also a great analogy for life in general. You don't want to go down looking.
You want to go down swinging.
What?
You want to go down swinging. So. Yeah.
That's why. Never mind. Let's keep going.
But I think just these hitters, man. I think I'd like to see more strikeouts swinging at the very least. I don't want to see strikeouts in general, but if you're going to strike out, you might as well go down swinging, like we've been saying. Mm-hmm. In every game, you have to feel like you have the advantage at pitcher because we really, really do in general. And so I want them to act like it, right? Act like we always have the lead. We're not going to give up any more runs. Mm-hmm. I think we just need to be more aggressive, I guess, in general.
Jkruse, do you kind of echo a lot of Joey B's concerns? We've got a weekend series against Bradley coming up and then a home game against U of I. This is a good team. 24-7, 9-2. There's not a whole lot to complain about, but
no. But I do fear, and this is gonna cut deep. What I'm about to say.
Oh wow.
I do fear that this softball team might have a little bit of what I'm going to now call it Xavier Johnson syndrome, and that Maria Groff is quite literally the key to our success this season because we finally faced a team like UNI with. I don't even know if I would call it elite pitching, but good pitching. And if our offense can't muster up 4 or 5 runs a game, which I think is all we need, we're going to experience some struggles. And we already have.
And what's that been about? Last year we were the team putting up 7-8.
I think what it is a lot of our best players last year were young, like the Jackie Lisses, the Anna Carters of the world. But then some film gets out there. And coaches at this level are smart. They figure out what works against certain players. Now, I will say, Jackie Liss is on a 10-game hitting streak. She's been playing much better lately.
Right.
So that's why I'm a little more optimistic that this Xavier Johnson syndrome will go away. Mm-hmm. But until I see it happen on a consistent basis, that one game where we scored 9 runs against UNI doesn't really do anything for me.
Right.
It needs to happen on a consistent basis against some of the best teams. If they go into Bradley this weekend, take at least 2 out of 3, score 7-8 runs, multiple games, I think we'll be okay.
Interesting. We're glad to hear that. Once again, they're very successful. 24-7 right now. 9-2. Hopefully the season plays out how we want it to. I'm sure it will. Let's move on to baseball. We had another series loss this time to Evansville, but then we beat Lindenwood, so you got to feel good about that. We currently sit at 19-10 and 4-2 in the Missouri Valley. So not as great as the softball team, but still, right? We're far over that 500 margin. Jkruse, I'm going to start with you to please give me your thoughts on this year's baseball team.
Yeah, so Joey and I talked about this last week, how the baseball and softball teams they have the opposite problems, right? Baseball offense is not an issue, but it's been the pitching. I do think they've finally found a nice little starting rotation, but the problem is the guys who were in the starting rotation to begin the year, the Jake Combses of the world, have had to drop to the bullpen. What?
Nothing.
Jake Combs is on the team, no?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
And the problem is whenever you put a guy from the starting rotation into the bullpen, a lot of times it's a morale dip for him, and the motivation's not necessarily there, and the bullpen hasn't performed well. And so while I do think our starters are good enough to win games, the bullpen just isn't anywhere where it needs to be right now.
Yeah, and Joey B., do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think the starting rotation has, at least specific guys, have gotten a lot better. I hope I'm saying his name right, but it's Alec Nugget. Okay.
Well, it's he gave me a form like in August, and he said his name was Nugget, but then I talked to Mike Trude, shout out, and he said his name is Nugget.
Okay.
So just pronunciate.
How would it be Nugget if it's spelled like
Nugget?
Well, I
Nugget.
spelled it how it sounds
Nugget.
on our notes,
Oh,
so
okay.
that
Let me see it.
it's actually spelled Niget.
No, UT.
What?
N-I-G-U-T.
Nigut.
Okay. I tried to
It's bad
spell it
journalism,
how it
maybe.
sounds so that I pronounce it right.
It's bad journalism.
Well, you can write it down however you want to, but
Yeah, that's my point. I was trying to write it down.
So that you didn't get confused.
Anyways, he's playing a lot better recently. So is Mike Hansel. He got us a win. Was that Tuesday night against Lindenwood? I think. But I mean, do the non-conference games really matter that much? Like, yeah, we got to win, but I don't know. Maybe just a confidence boost, if anything else. But,
Right.
Teams just really aren't that afraid of some of our other starters, I guess. It seems like when it rains, it pours with these guys, right? A lot of the runs that just come in all in the same time, all in the same inning. So I don't know what specifically we can do to figure this out, but it just needs to get figured out so that we can get longer stretches from our starters in general. And I love our production across our lineup, too. We got guys all over the lineup, top to bottom, that can produce in certain ways. Cole Chrisman is probably my favorite player in this lineup. Jake Allegeyer, Trey Cutchin, Nathan Bandy, and then Stephen Loden from last year as well. All terrific options in this lineup, and they're all across from top to bottom. I'm pretty sure Nathan Bandy hit 7th the other night. So, yeah, hopefully this team starts to turn around, at least in the Valley soon. But I guess we'll just see.
Absolutely. Would you guys say it's accurate? Right? Because you talk about this team, how it's so hit and miss. Like you said, when it rains, it pours. SIU football, to me, felt that way this year.
very much so.
They go on runs, right? And they look like, oh my gosh, wait, this team is definitely top 10. Oh my God, we just lost to Youngstown State again.
Yeah.
It's like you kind of just can't really figure it out. And I think that's just kind of been the story of SIU success, really, for men's sports.
For sure.
Especially basketball too. We're
same.
putting this all together.
All SIU men's sports are the same. Is what I'm trying to say.
Exactly. That does it for Dogs of the Vet. And now me and Jkruse have to talk about a rough college basketball weekend.
I had a good time.
Yeah, whatever, Jkruse. Shut up, Jkruse.
The Final Four is set.
It's upon us.
Phoenix, Arizona, Saturday night. It's going to be rocket. And look, I need to take a drink. So Cole Daly, tell the people who the two matchups are while I take a drink.
So, folks at home, we have UConn matched up against Alabama. Two high-powered offenses.
Oh, yes.
And then you got the Battle of the Bigs with Big Boy DJ Burns for NC State. And then Purdue with the infamous Zach Edey.
Yes, probably one of the more polarizing players
Absolutely.
of recent memory.
Absolutely.
Now, there's always polarizing players, but again, it's I say this. Hold on. I can't say that. Sorry. I'm a little under the weather today, so I'm like.
Brain's foggy.
Yeah.
I got you.
Let's go over the two matchups, and let's discuss shortly as well how these teams got here, right?
Right.
UConn, I think everybody knows how they got here. They started this a year ago by just murdering everybody they play. They've continued that through this NCAA tournament. Took care of San Diego State. Virtually no problems in that game. Move on to play Illinois.
Samson Johnson. Can we talk about Samson Johnson really quick?
What about him?
Backup center. Athlete.
Yeah.
He dunked.
Throwdowns.
He had a dunk in that Illinois game where he just looked down at the basket and then, like, held onto the side. Yeah. I don't know if what I would do for a Duke guy to be that athletic.
They haven't had a guy like that since what, Jalil Okafor?
Jalil couldn't even get up like that.
Jabari?
You know what I mean?
Parker?
Jabari, well, we had Zion.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about Zion. This is my fog brain today.
But just guys that, it's probably Zion.
Yeah.
Something about it.
But, yeah, UConn steamrolled their way through San Diego State. And then in the Illinois game.
Thank God. I hate San Diego State, by the way.
Yeah, I know. They're so annoying.
Yeah.
But then the Illinois game, it was what people may forget is it was a 5-point game at halftime. In fact, it was tied 23-23, I believe, with 2 minutes left to go, somewhere around there in the first half. And then UConn proceeded to go on probably the most dominant run I have ever seen in a late NCAA tournament game.
Right. In Elite Eight, this doesn't happen.
30-0. I watched every single second of that. Mm-hmm. And look, I said, and I'd have to rewind the tapes to find the exact moment, but I remember saying probably like mid to late February that the UConn team was different, but even I didn't put my money where my mouth was. I still thought that their road to the tournament was going to be difficult because they were going to have to play Auburn, but then Auburn lost to Yale, so that ended up not mattering.
Yeah.
San Diego State can't play offense. They rolled through them, and then Illinois doesn't play defense. So there's these extremes teams that they have to play, and either way they just dominate. Right. If you're a great offensive team, they find a way to shut you down, and they did. And they also used their great offense. By the way, they only made 3 threes in that game too, against Illinois, and they still scored 77 points. So if you think about it from that perspective, that just goes to show how efficient they are on the offensive end and how dominant they were. That 30-0 run was something unlike I've ever seen. Again, especially including the context of Illinois being they were the number 1 offensive team in the country from an efficiency standpoint at that time. For them to go on a cold stretch like that and for UConn to just knife them up defensively or offensively, I don't know what you would call, you would know better than I would, what sort of a system they run. It just seems like constant motion to me.
It's very...
And it seems like in that run, it was guys were just wide open under the basket every single time. Now, look, I know Illinois is a bad defensive team. They were all season. They gave up like 100 to Minnesota or whatever. But for them to have wide open layup after wide open layup and then getting out in transition, making the right decision every single time, didn't even have to shoot threes to do it, they're just running a well-oiled machine right now, and I don't know if anyone's going to stop it. It truly is UConn and then everybody else. There's a sizable gap, like a huge gap between them and probably, I guess, Purdue would be number 2, but even, I don't know. I mean, maybe we'll see them play on Monday, but even so, I don't know how anybody beats this team.
Absolutely. So I have a couple points that I'd like to bring up, especially regarding that UConn to Illinois game. So 2 factors when you consider. 1, I didn't love the game plan coming from Brad Underwood. I'm usually not a blame the coach guy. I've been notorious about saying Jkruse is a blame the coach guy.
Come on over.
But what are we doing with Terrence Shannon just walking down the other side, not having the ball in his hands? I mean, what is that? I mean, you got the best player in the court. Domask, SIU Go Dogs, had a great game, and he was kind of the only guy really looked like had the stones to really go up against that UConn team.
Yeah.
But secondly, offensively, I don't even blame this one on Underwood, not even a little bit. But Guerriere.
He lost in that game.
Quincy. Listen. I obviously am not 6'10", and athletic and can do what he does.
What, really?
But good God. I mean, I think of one play in particular that sums up Quincy Guerrier's game that day. He was nervous. He was scared. And so in the first half, I'm going to break down 2 plays. First half, he's got a wide open 3. He waits on it. And then because the help defender on Terrence Shannon, who's in the corner, is coming up, the game is tied at this point. Illinois could have taken their first lead. And Terrence Shannon's wide open in the corner. But then he fakes a pass to Shannon, so the help defender is clearly like, well, I'm going to guard Shannon. And then he kind of nervously goes in the lane I see Clingan there. And then he goes, double pump, throws it off the backboard, nothing. Turns into a UConn play. When he finally gains his confidence in the second half, he also passes up a wide open 3. The guy goes down. He goes, I'm going to go dunk it on the 7-2 Big East defensive player of the year. Oh, my God. And gets stuffed by Donovan Clingan.
It seemed like there were 5 offensive possessions in a row. It's probably not true, but it seemed like during that 30-0 run, which, again, that's just insane.
Right.
During that run, Illinois had 5 or 6 possessions in a row where they were just driving right at Clingan.
I know.
None of you were even 7 foot, let alone 7'2".
And the thing is none of them were initiating contact efficiently.
No.
They were very kind of, and that's on Clingan. A lot of it is, right?
Yeah,
for being
really
smart,
playing
really, really good defense. But it just when you.
What are you doing?
The lack of kickouts.
Yes.
Right? For a team that shoots the ball well.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Yeah. And then my last thing that I just want to say on UConn, the team I compare them to, as I say, thank God they're at least UConn. Because if this was Virginia, who was dominating like this, college basketball would be over as we know it.
Yeah.
UConn, I compare them to the Chiefs. When we look at dynasties, we should be thankful for the Kansas City Chiefs because they are offensive-centric, which means they're fun to watch. The Super Bowls that the Chiefs have been a part of have been fun to watch because of their prowess there. You know, I think back to Patriots play the Rams in the Super Bowl against Jared Goff, final score 10-3. You know, you're not going to get that in a UConn game. I mean, they might blow your team out, which doesn't make the game fun. But, I mean, think of all the UConn highlights that we do get to go back and look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do realize, and this is wild for people to think about, if UConn wins, which I think we all think they will, they may not.
They may not.
It'd be cool if they did.
I think Purdue's got a good shot because you talked about that, and I think that's a really good point that not a lot of people are bringing up. So they're going to knock out a 16 seed. They're going to beat Northwestern. Get out of here.
That's the closest game they've had so far.
But,
believe it or not.
But I believe that because, San Diego State, like you said, no offense. They can't produce a bucket. Illinois, no defense. They're going to play Bama. People have been saying all year. That score might be
120-100.
I was gonna say it might be. Yeah. I mean, it might be ridiculous. But Purdue is decent on offense and on defense, and I think they kind of. I think their comparison a little bit is like Creighton without Shireman, and when you think of the team that upset UConn in the last loss of the season, Creighton.
Yep, I totally agree. UConn, if they win, will have 6 championships in the last 25 tournaments. I mean, and the thing is it's not like they've had what, like 4 or 5 different coaches over that period as well.
Three.
Calhoun.
It would be Calhoun, Kevin Ollie.
I guess Calhoun was there for most of that time. So yeah, Calhoun, Ollie,
and then Dan
Who was
Hurley.
between Ollie and Hurley? I feel like there was one guy between them.
When would they have won?
What do you mean? They won in '99. I actually just had it pulled up.
Please, yes.
They won in '99.
So that would be Calhoun.
They won in 2004. Calhoun.
11
was also Calhoun. So he has 3. Ollie in 14. And then Hurley. And I feel like there was a guy between Ollie and Hurley.
Well, there was. Yeah, but he wasn't good.
Actually, no, there wasn't.
What?
Never mind.
They kept
I'm
Ollie
just
around
gonna take
that
back
long?
what I said. They did it with 3 different coaches.
They kept Ollie that long?
Yeah, apparently. Looking at it right now.
Okay.
Wild. They really fell off after one of his, or after that.
Well, it's because it's that symptom, and I hate to kind of throw SIU into this, but you talk about guys who, especially back in that age before transfer portal and NIL, they recruit guys who build up a program, and so I believe, I want to get this right, so I'm not actually. Bruce Weber would have been. I don't know the SIU coaches enough. I'm not going to put that statement out there. But I'm just saying you have to recruit. Yeah. Those were all Calhoun's guys who won the title with Ollie. You know what I mean? Which is why Ollie got fired.
Shabazz.
Yeah.
Shabazz. I agree. All right. Anyway, let's stop the UConn pod, even though Cole Daly is wearing their colors. I did notice that. You're basically a UConn guy today.
Yeah, basically.
Let's just talk about Bama real quick. Bama, one of the weirder roads to the Final Four. They beat Charleston in round 1, Grand Canyon in round 2, and then they beat one of your very few positive moments from this past weekend was North Carolina losing, I'm sure. So just go ahead and take us through that game and how amazing that was to watch Bama beat them.
So there's not much to talk about in that, aside from Grant Nelson played out of his mind. Mark Sears is a wonderful point guard, or score-first point guard. He's not really he's not Braden Smith, which is like, that guy is a point guard.
Yeah.
I get a lot of Aaron Kraft memories when looking at Braden Smith.
Interesting.
But shout out Aaron Kraft. Oh, but when I think the smile on my face, wider than any Duke victory this past year, is when North Carolina's up 72-69, close game, less than 2 minutes left, and they dish it down to Baycott, and he goes up for the easiest two-handed slam.
Gosh.
Oh no! And it's gone. And it misses the hoop.
And they lose by 2.
And then Bama makes a couple shots. Oh wow! Now it's a 1-point game, and they swing the ball early in the shot clock. And Jalen Withers takes the worst 3-pointer I've ever seen. I talk crap on Guerriere. That was the worst shot you could possibly.
Yeah.
Oh, didn't go in. Alabama has a chance to win, and they do it. They capitalize.
That was for me probably the most surprising, even more than NC State, even because NC State just has kind of that magic. That was the most surprising upset of the weekend for me, honestly. The fact that Bama won that game and the hilarity of it being a 2-point game and Baycott missing that dunk, like you said.
It's kind of UNC.
And then Bama beat Clemson, a Clemson team that I was rooting for them to beat Bama in that game, but their guard play kind of let them down. Joe Girard tried to be.
Yeah, Joe Girard was not great.
He lost in that game by taking a lot of stupid threes. They didn't really get Chase Hunter involved enough, I didn't think. Joe Girard was pretty disappointing. So Bama to the Final Four, their first ever Final Four appearance. Let's go to the other side. We've talked a little bit about Zach Edey already. 40 points versus Tennessee. And I think the real story in that game was
18 free throws?
A crap ton of free throws. I think the bigger story in that game, though, is just Tennessee continuing to do Tennessee things. I said it beforehand. I didn't even think they would make it to the Elite Eight, which the fact that they did was great, and I think it was really only because they have Dalton Connect, and they haven't had him in the past. I was never in on guys like Zakai Ziegler, Santiago Vescovi. I think there's reasons that they're still in college.
Yeah.
That's what I've always said about guys like that.
100%.
There's a reason they're still in college. You could tell.
I thought IDU would do a better job against Edey.
Yeah.
Not that anybody can really control Edey, but
no.
I mean,
unless it's Zedke. On a random Saturday after coach gets fired. Anyway, no, Zach Edey is inevitable, I think. And I think we are probably headed to a matchup between Purdue and UConn. If we get it. And if we do, I think it'll be an incredible game.
I agree.
It will be an incredible game.
I think that'll be one for the books.
It will be a chess match of biblical proportions between Dan Hurley and Matt Painter, two guys who run their teams very similarly. They run a crap ton of plays, motion offense, getting guys moved around. So that Edey, who has gotten better at passing a little bit this season, he did hit Lance Jones for a couple of big threes late in that Tennessee game. So that was good to see from him.
Can I basketball nerd out for just a little bit?
Let's do it.
Braden Smith's entry passes.
They're pretty darn good.
Because we don't have, there's a lack of real point guardism in the sport nowadays. Like, point guards used to never score the ball. Because Steph Curry, now we got guys like Mark Sears, and a lot of your best players will be point guards. And UConn also has players who can make this type of stuff too. But Braden Smith, I love watching him play because he's scrappy. And the entry passes. Like, he's obviously a good player. He can knock down some shots when you need him to. But not everybody knows how to do that, at a high level. And he gets it. He gets what he needs to do. I feel like if I'm the Spurs in a draft that's crappy as this one, I think in the second round you go, hey Braden, listen, you might not play right away. But if you could just come in and throw some entry passes, because the Spurs don't know how to throw entry passes, because they're all good NBA players who've been the top scorers at their college programs.
Yeah.
But now you just get a guy who could, just throw it way up there. Just throw it way up there.
When people get it.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
He gets it. I like Braden Smith a lot.
So yeah, Tennessee's, they made the Elite Eight, but did you know that they've never been to a Final Four either? Which I think is kind of weird.
Purdue?
No, Tennessee.
Oh. Yeah. The program like that.
Yeah. Even Georgia has been to a Final Four. And Tennessee never has. Arkansas, pretty much the entire SEC outside of probably Vandy too, because Vandy stinks. Anyway.
Yeah.
Last thing.
Tennessee, L State.
L State. Last thing, I wanted to save this. It was Easter Sunday, right? And I just got done watching
it was a bad Easter Sunday.
Purdue play Tennessee. And then the Duke versus NC State game comes on. And I got the feeling very early in that game that NC State may have just run out of gas.
Yeah.
And that this was going to be the most Duke run to the tournament ever, getting to face
that is
Vermont, to face James Madison.
That is
Jamal Shed getting
we're
hurt.
not allowed to cuss on this podcast, but that was BS.
Jamal Shed getting hurt, and then they get to go.
That's not the most Duke thing. This is a very lucky run, and I will agree with you.
To go up against an 11 seed NC
But Duke
State,
always has to play Michigan State, the 7 seed.
I'm not listening to you. Who needed?
And then we got to play
buzzer
South
beater.
Carolina, and they made their way to the Final Four. Where you had Jason Tatum, Luke Kennard, and Grayson Allen all at the peak of their powers.
NC State needed a miracle against Virginia, who is probably one of the worst NCAA tournament teams of all time from a Power 5 conference, to win the ACC tournament and then go on the miracle run that they did. And then we go into the second half of that game, right? Duke's dominating. I think they were up by 8 early in the second half.
We were doing all right.
I get in my car. I start driving home because I went home this weekend for Easter. I get in my car. I start driving. I make a stop to go to the bathroom. I turn on my phone. NC State's up.
I was in a meeting at that time.
Cole Daly, what the heck happened?
Here's the thing. I wish I could tell you, but I was in a meeting with our lovely Daily Egyptian staff at the time, and I watched the first half. I said, all right, we're comfortably up. We had kind of, whether it's not the score went back and forth, Duke had the control over the game. And I'm in my meeting, and it's kind of a hectic meeting, and so what happened? That was literally my reaction.
Yeah.
Is I wish I could tell you. Here's this. I know this. Proctor's talked about being a really good defender, and he does. Yes, he's really good. Like against Shed, he did a good job. And then DJ Horn, we can't control DJ Horn. And then, I've talked at length about Kyle Filipowski can't hold DJ Burns. I think it was just a lot of... I didn't know what to make of this year's Duke team. I think losing Caleb Foster halfway through hurt us. And listen, that NC State team, they got some dogs. They clearly got some magic. DJ Burns is a great guy, too. Diarra played really excellent defensively.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We were a stellar three-point shooting team, and our shots didn't go down. Like McCain, even though he finishes with 32, wasn't really his best game. At least at the time we needed him, right? Kyle Filipowski was just... I can't wait till he leaves for the draft, really. And I've never felt...
Is he going to?
He better. Seriously, I don't want him back. And it's, my family's like, oh, he's Duke. You can't hate Duke players. It's like, I can hate whoever I want. If he sucks, I try to be non-biased, and he's got a crappy attitude, and I think he's overrated. I think the NBA draft scouts are going to be like, whoa. I do not see him translating to the NBA well. I do not. He's already 21. He was a 20-year-old freshman. Cut the ties while you still can. Have him go out now. Cooper Flagg's already going to be enough of a villain because he's a tall white guy. And we're bringing him in. We don't need Flip. I don't want another year Flip. He's been my least favorite Duke player who puts up this kind of stats. You know what I mean? And I can't even think of a Duke player that I've really kind of felt this way about. But maybe like Jalen Johnson for quitting.
Yeah.
I didn't like that, and DJ Stewart. for leaving for the draft early. I was like, what are you do? You're not even good yet.
No, not even close.
Like, you'd average like 7 points a game. Why are you leaving to go to the draft? Whatever. So, I don't know. Those are my few. Oh, actually, no. You know what? I will say this. I hated Wendell Moore.
Really?
Freshman and sophomore year, he got way more playing time than I thought, and I didn't think he played very well.
I agree.
But then, junior year, he started taking good shots. He started taking care of. Man, what I would do for a Wendell Moore on this year's team, actually, now you got me thinking. And like I think of one of my favorite teams. So for the ones that I got to experience during my lifetime, my favorites. Obviously, number one has to be the 2015. I'm gonna sit back up. The 2015 championship winning team: Tyus Jones, Justice Winslow, Quinn Cook. Quinn Cook is my all-time favorite Dookie. I love you, Quinn. I know you're listening. And then it has to go 2, Zion, and then 3, the Paolo.
Yeah.
Mark Williams. Like, that team liked each other. Wendell Moore, all those guys. And I don't want to say this because I don't want it to be too early, but the Shire era has me so scared.
So scared. As it should.
Has me so... Because, like... So this past year, we needed to recruit wings. Like, wings and, like, bigs. And we got Mark Mitchell and Sean Stewart, 2 non-shooters. And we have Ryan Young on the bench.
Sean Stewart plays some really good defense.
He does. And I want him to stay. But he won't. Because then all Josh I recruited this next year has been nothing but wings and forwards. And he's probably going to leave.
He, overcompensates.
Yes. That's what it is. I'm terrified of the roster construction, man. I'm really nervous about this roster construction. It was fun when, because Kentucky would always just be the team that just takes everybody.
Yeah.
I'm going on this big long rant here, so I'm sorry to the listeners, and I would make fun of them. Yes, they produce NBA talent, right? But you remember that Tyrese Maxey, Emmanuel Quickly, and Ashton Hagen's team? They didn't do jack.
No, they didn't.
And then it's because they just had too many players. That Kevin Knox team that everybody talked about. Oh my gosh, Kevin Knox and Nick Richards.
I thought he was going to be a lot better in the NBA.
Too many guys. It was just too many guys. But Duke, yes, we had freshman leaders, but we never had, I don't feel, too many, where it was like so many guys want to get to the next level. You think about the young guys we had. Okay, I want to use the most recent example, that Paolo Banchero team, as an example, right? Okay, so Jeremy Roach is a junior, right? Guard, leader. Trevor Keels, AJ Griffin,
right?
Paolo Banchero, right? Probably our 3 biggest scoring leaders. Trevor Keels was kind of on and off. And then Mark Mitchell was also a young guy, but he was a shot blocker. Trevor Keels is like a designated number 3 guy. AJ Griffin's a perfect 2, and then Paolo Banchero's a perfect 1. Same kind of worked its way out with Zion being the 1, RJ being the 2, and they would kind of swap back and forth. And then Cam Reddish is a clear 3 in those guys. With these teams, it's like, and this might just be more reflective of high school basketball, and it's like, okay, well, we got Caleb Foster. What is he? Shooter guard. Okay. What's Jared McCain? Shooter guard. Okay. What's Filipowski? Well, he needs his points too. Okay, well, Mark Mitchell's also a top 20 prospect, and even though he can't really score, he's going to want to, so he does. And then we also have Jeremy Roach, who's a good scoring guy. And it's like, there's only one basketball. Like, I want somebody to come in on this team. That's why next year people are going to – I'm predicting this right now. People are going to be like, Cooper Flagg's only scoring 13 points a game. We thought he was going to be the next LeBron. He's defense. Like, he's gonna score. Obviously, he's very athletic. I was watching the McDonald's All-American game, and, like, his athleticism is very high. But defense is, like, his catalyst. And we have a center, the African guy, who is all defense. And it just – this is turning into the Duke Basketball podcast, so I should stop. I have a lot to get out now that the season's over, and I appreciate the listeners for hearing my spiel.
I am going to give a couple minutes to NC State.
Please.
DJ Burns.
One
of the most likable players. You may hate him.
I don't.
One of the most likable players.
Here's the thing, I don't even hate him.
Of all time, going up against one of the most polarizing players in Zach Edey. That's going to be an incredible matchup. I don't actually think that they're going to be matched up as much as people are talking about, because NC State has a guy much better suited to guard Edey, and Mohamed Diarra.
Yeah.
So they'll probably put him on Edey. But despite that, that's going to be the narrative heading into the week. But where I believe the game will be won, Casey Morsell versus Lance Jones, and Braden Smith versus DJ Horn. That's where the game's going to be won. Which guards can elevate the game just enough to win?
Can I ask you this as a Big Ten watcher?
Yes.
Why not double Edie?
He's gotten much better at passing the ball.
Yeah,
And
but
here's the thing. The teams that have been able to beat Purdue this season, there's been 4 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin, this is crazy.
It's
Wisconsin,
crazy. Wisconsin,
Northwestern, Nebraska, and Ohio State. And what all 4 of those teams did, especially Ohio State, is they decided, you know what? We don't care if Purdue goes to the free throw line. We're not going to let Edie get the ball up. As soon as he catches the ball, we're going to try to steal it from him. And Ohio State forced 6 turnovers.
But I feel
to
like
Zach
when
Edey.
he got these big elbows, right? And
Well, you just have to deny the catch.
he's huge. But Braden Smith has such good entry passes. So my thought process is, right? He's doing this. Why not have the guy who's guarding Braden Smith or Mason Gillis just run down as soon as he sees that entry pass and then just do that?
Yeah, I agree.
Because you just think this Purdue team, that is his name Fletcher?
Fletcher Lawyer.
Fletcher, he's clearly a shooter,
Yeah.
right? That's his job. Braden Smith is what, 31%, 32%, 33%? I mean, he's
I think he's
decent.
36, 37, honestly.
He's decent, but he's also not taking all that many.
No. They play smart ball.
Lance, I mean, we talked at length at SIU about how Lance Jones. Granted, he might hit Lance Jones. Lance might go 6
He's
for
gotten
8.
much better, though, at shot selection because Purdue has forced him to.
I know, but I'm saying he can be a really hot or really, really cold
Yeah.
guy. But he's still going to take it either way. And then it's not like Mason Gillis can shoot. I mean, this is not a team, to me, that has so many shooters that doubling Zach Edey is inconceivable. My thought process is, because even in the NBA they're doubling guys, and everybody in the NBA can shoot. So why are you not? That's just me, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think if in order for one of these teams to beat UConn, somebody is going to have to get on a hot shooting night. And I think there are 2 teams that can do it.
What if Lance Jones? What if Lance
Well,
Jones?
I'm serious though. Like,
What if Lance Jones goes 7 of 9? And
yes,
he's like
Lance
the
Jones
reason
or
Purdue
Fletcher
beats
Lawyer, like those are going
UConn?
to have to be the guys that get hot in order to beat UConn because that's the only way that they're even slightly.
It would just be so
attainable.
awesome if Lance Jones was the reason Purdue wins the championship, and he's got that SIU tie. That'd just be great.
Yeah, it would be crazy. So it's going to be a great Final Four weekend. If I had to make a prediction, I would probably go UConn and then Purdue.
It's got to be UConn. Purdue.
Purdue's slightly over NC State. I honestly think that
What?
NC
Really?
State has a better chance of beating Purdue than Bama does at beating UConn. Which I don't know if that's
Oh.
a crazy hot take,
Yeah,
but
no.
I do think the NC State Purdue game is going to be really close. I actually think it's going to be pretty close.
Really?
Yeah, and
I
then,
think Purdue.
and then Edey will shoot enough free throws, and Purdue will win by like 5 or 6.
See, everybody's talking about, oh my God, Duke had such an easy road to the final. Let's not remember who. NC State played Texas Tech, who to me was like a 10 seed.
They were
Why were they a 6 seed?
Mitty McMidson.
Yeah, Mitty McMidson. And then they play Oakland.
who they needed overtime.
And then they play Marquette, who, when is Marquette under Shaka Smart?
never.
Have you ever been scared of them?
No.
And then they played a Duke team that I have been very critical of the entire year.
No, that's what I'm saying. I think Purdue is going to win the game, but I do think it'll be closer than people expect. Or maybe people are expecting it to be closer. I don't know. Let us know in the comments.
Let us know in the comments, folks. Can I ask you one more question before we close out?
Yeah.
Why does Matt Painter only coach 1 year at SIU? What's that about?
I mean,
Do you know?
he went to Purdue, and the Purdue job came open, or it was going to come open the year after. So he left SIU and took the associate head coach job at Purdue, knowing that 1 year later it was going to be.
So he went straight
coach job
from
would be open.
he went straight from SIU to Purdue.
I remember he played there. He played under Gene Katie.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a personal thing, and SIU had been so good that you figure taking one of their guys.
I think it's just very surprising that. I mean, he comes in, gets the head coaching job, 1 year, straight out.
Yeah.
It's so odd to me.
No, he's been
So
pretty
he just
darn good.
quit?
No, I mean he just took another job.
He just took another job. Wow.
Shout out Matt Painter.
Shout out Matt Painter, former Dog. It was funny that they had him speak. Remember when that one announcer was retiring or whatever?
Mike Reese.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they had Matt
He's
Painter.
not just an announcer.
I'm sorry. I wish I knew.
It's okay.
Wish I knew more. I don't work in Saluki Athletics. But,
Fair enough.
and they had Matt Painter come on the TV.
Yeah, they did.
And I was like, he was here for like.
Well, he was here for, like 6 years.
I know, but.
Anyway,
yeah.
Let's move on to some baseball.
Let's move on.
JB, get back up here.
That's what I'm saying.
What an eventful MLB opening week we just had. I am just so glad to have baseball back.
Oh my God.
Aren't you, Jkruse?
Absolutely, I am. There's something aesthetically pleasing about, well, for those of us who have MLB TV, about every single day, especially in the middle of the week, there's day baseball because it's like the last game of the series. There's something pleasing about just looking at a schedule and realizing if I wanted to, I could watch baseball from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m.
Absolutely.
So,
it's amazing.
Awesome.
I love like finishing off my nightly routine with I don't have the fortune of having MLB TV like you, but I just use Buff Streams. Not to shout out any website out there if anybody needs to. I usually just use some website to watch one of the West Coast games. This week it was Giants and Dodgers over in LA. What a series too. And then even a little bit, I was just curious how the Athletics and the Red Sox were doing. So I watched a little bit of that from the 8th inning on. That game ended up going into the 11th inning, which Athletics are a disgusting team to get into. But nevertheless, I wanted to try my fair share, at least this week. I don't know if this is going to continue on in the following weeks. I don't want to make any promises. But I thought it was very, very clear that we could do this opening week's games and teams, I guess I should say, as buy, sell, and hold, much like Cole Daly's format that he likes to do for NBA, and much like what you do for college basketball or did for college basketball while the regular season was going on. I'm going to start off with my sell right now, and I think this is also very, very clear. I'm going to save my other two because they ended up playing each other this week. I'm going to start off with my sell. It's the Miami Marlins. Couldn't have gotten any worse, really. 0-7 start.
No.
They got swept by the Pirates. And, man, I don't think anybody was higher on the Pirates. They kind of suck, which they have obviously outperformed. They swept the Marlins.
Don't forget they started like 20-9 last year or 28 last year. So
and they always end up
an April team.
They're
just April champions.
Forever will be April champions of the league. And then they also got swept by the Angels, who are trying to figure out this post Shohei Ohtani lifestyle. They still got Mike Trout, who homered on the very first at bat that he saw in the season. But all those games were at home for the Marlins too, so that makes it much worse. They're going to have to start a road series here against the Cardinals, but it's only going to get worse. The teams they have to end up playing after this Cardinals series that they'll start today. They got the Yankees, Braves, Giants, our Chicago Cubs, then the Braves again. Those series, that's going to be a gridlock trying to figure out how to manage those teams. So I think it's safe to sell on this team.
Yeah, I think it is too, and they kind of fumbled the bag in free agency. They got rid of Kim Ng, I believe that's how you say her last name. I think she was maybe the first female GM ever, and she actually wasn't doing a bad job, I didn't think. So I didn't really understand what that was about, but they've had a lot of injuries, especially to the starting rotation. I think the offense has certainly taken a step back when it wasn't very good to begin with. And you're seeing a guy like Jorge Soler, who's been there the last couple of seasons, and what he's been doing in San Francisco. They obviously missed that. And I think, and this might be a little extreme, they might be a team you see starting to sell players way before the trade deadline, depending on how bad this gets. And it does suck because the Marlins, especially in the National League East, a bunch of very hateable teams like the Mets and the Phillies. And, the Braves aren't really hateable. They're just really good every single season. The Marlins are a team that you would like to see be better. But if their peak was last year making it as the 5 seed in the playoffs, that's a little rough.
Yeah, and I don't know how many teams we see, make the playoffs, kind of just sneak in like they did last year in that race against the Cubs, and then just start off so bad the next season. Not quite this bad at an 0-7 start. I have a stat down here. Since 2000, only 3 teams have started 0-7. Those 3 teams were the 2003 Detroit Tigers, who had the worst MLB record ever, 43 and 119. The 2016 Minnesota Twins, who ended up at 59 and 103. They couldn't even win 60 games. And then the 2016 Atlanta Braves, the 68 and 93 Atlanta Braves. So, if that stat is any indicator, then this team is in for a very, very rough season. And it's not what I thought it would have been. I wouldn't have expected them to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But, man, they're going to have to be in for a reset once the offseason comes in, probably once the trade deadline comes in well before. The next team I want to talk about had a very, very interesting first series, and then another very, very interesting second series. It's the Houston Astros, and I want to hold on the Houston Astros right now because I think people are freaking out. They see that 2-5 record right now, and I shouldn't say that people are actually freaking out, but you just see a 2-5 record, and it's like, man, things are not going very hot.
Right.
They got swept by the Yankees in 4 games, which I wouldn't have seen that coming.
No.
That's crazy. With their type of rotation and then to see what they did in a series win over Toronto, throwing a no-hitter, throwing a one-hitter against the Blue Jays the next day, which that was yesterday at the time of this recording.
Right.
Their rotation is amazing. And to see the Yanks be able to get out of there with 4 road wins against the Astros is kind of nerve-wracking, I guess, to start, but there's still plenty of time. There's 162 games in a season. Don't have to worry about just one series, and you'll probably end up meeting them in the American League Championship Series. But it was just a very, very disturbing start for Astros fans, needless to say. Josh Hader kind of he threw up a meatball against Toronto and gave up the lead in the 9th inning. Could have swept Toronto, would have made that a 3-4 record if they are able to close that up. But I just think the Yankees are that good this season, to be honest. I don't think this is anything to really worry about. It's so early.
Yeah.
And that rotation is only going to get better with time.
Yeah, I think one thing that sort of concerns me about them is they are getting older-ish. I mean, they've still got enough young pieces to where they aren't like the Cardinals, for example, like a retirement home. But the Josh Hader thing, ever since he's left Milwaukee, it just doesn't really seem like he's been the same.
Right?
And I think there is something to that, I think, just being in a place that you're unfamiliar, and the Brewers had such a good, I guess, pattern or such a good, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess such a good rotation of their bullpen to where every single day you pretty much knew exactly what was going to happen given any situation. If the team was winning, you knew you weren't going to pitch if you're a guy like Josh Hader. And the Brewers were in so many close games where he could get mentally prepared for that even before the game started. But now that you're on a different team like the Astros, and you probably don't feel as much pressure to perform either, because you expect the team to just be, a little bit more powerful offensively. But when they're not, he experienced that on the Padres as well, I noticed. So that's something to certainly watch. But how about Raniel Blanco with that no-hitter?
Yeah.
I mean, they just find these guys out of nowhere and turn them into stars. I don't know how they do it. I'm not concerned about them. Like you said, I think Hold is a good spot to have them.
Whatever pitching staff they have in their minor league teams they're doing them wonders up in the big leagues. So
yeah,
I just think of them as like how I'll use an NFL comparison of like the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs and the Patriots back in like 2018, 2017, those teams were not September ball clubs.
No,
they were December playoff time ball clubs. Same thing with the Houston Astros. That's just what I think of it. They're only going to get better with time. They're going to make a huge push late in the season. Let's not make any huge assumptions over just one series. Although I will say it's worrisome to be swept. I would have liked to see, if I was an Astros fan, I would have liked to see at least just one win, but a sweep is very nerve-wracking, and it was at home against the Yankees too. So, and because we're talking about the Yankees are my buy team. I am buying into them. I'm buying into this Juan Soto that we've seen so far. He's absolutely changed so much. He's become a more mature hitter, I think. They outplayed this week two of the best teams in baseball. Of course, the Astros, like we mentioned, but they also got a series win against the D-backs. Now, they just got their first loss last night, but I think that was kind of due. But Juan Soto, man, coming up with that opening day play out in right field.
Oh, my gosh.
That's just a preview as to what we're probably going to see out of him in right field for the Yankees. That outfield is so stacked, too.
Yeah.
I think I kind of forgot about how stacked their outfield was when I was making my season predictions, to be honest. So I hate it so much, but, man, they are going to be good. And their starting rotation is a bit worrisome, but I think, like I've said with all these other teams, I just only think with more time, the starters are going to get more used to it. And yeah, Stanton's locked in right now. This whole offense is locked in right now. They're clutch when they need to. They've gotten a variety of wins this week. Blowing out the Astros in a couple games, the D-backs in a couple games, and then late game wins against the Astros in a couple of them. I mean, they have the power and they have the rotation needed in order to make a long run.
They do, and I think the Juan Soto thing is interesting because what people had essentially decided early in his career that he was almost a defensive liability. And I think people forgot about the fact that, well, he can get better at that. You do realize that, right? And he obviously has, especially with that throw home, and then his range has improved as well. Absolutely. So I think it's just sort of a PSA for baseball fans. It's like guys can get better after they get to the show at certain things. You're seeing it with Mookie Betts, too, in the way that he's been moving all over the diamond. He's been playing a lot of shortstop for the Dodgers, which is crazy. If in 2019 or 18, if you would have told me that Mookie Betts was going to be the starting shortstop for the Dodgers in a few years, that's wild. But it just goes to show that certain guys, the certain superstars, like the Juan Sotos and Mookie Betts of the world, can evolve their game, even deep into their careers. But again, Juan Soto is only 25, but he's just been at the show so long that I think people forget about that.
And I think it takes a type of maturity to realize your flaws and to be able to fix them. So I mean, if I was a Yankees fan, I'd be more than ecstatic right now with what I've seen from Juan Soto. I think I probably underestimated them going into the season, and I think they're probably going to go on another long run. Although, with all this being said about all three of these teams, it's just the first week. Yeah. I don't think any huge assumptions should be made, right? Although I can say what I've liked from what I've seen. It's just 1 week. It's just a couple series, long ways to go in this season. Now, the last thing, obviously, we're going to talk about every single week is our little Cubs rant here, Cubs Corner, whatever you want to call it. And this week was very, very up and down, right? We had some very, very high highs, and then we had some very, very low lows. And specifically with the low lows, I think that's going to be something that we're going to have to just figure out moving forward. And I'm talking about Justin Steele right now. Yeah. He hyperextended his thigh. He tried to grab a ground ball in opening day in about the fifth inning, and he seemed to stretch it somehow. He's on the 15-day IL. We're a little I was a little scared going into yesterday's game, trying to figure out how we were going to manage just our pitching staff in general without him, because with him gone now and Tyone gone now, I mean, we're down two crucial starters for this team who, when they're at their high game, they can be up there with some of the best pitchers in the league. Yeah. And we had to start Luke Little last night. Not a starter, but he had it in a pinch. He worked fine, and then it was mostly Ben Brown that got most of the outs last night. Right. He did fine. Now, it was this Rockies team that I think is a lot worse than what I realized. You hear what Chris Bryant said he was interviewed sometime before the season about his decision to go to the Rockies before the trade deadline, and he said he wished he knew more about the Rockies prospect and AAA farm system before he signed with them. So I think that's very, very interesting. That tells me where Chris Bryant thinks of this Rockies team right now.
Oh, yeah. No.
But anyways, Yeah, we managed to salvage one win against the Rangers, which is nice to avoid a sweep, and then we just swept the Rockies, of course. I loved what we saw out of Shota in the home opener. He's going to be absolutely amazing this season. I think he's exactly what this starting rotation needs. He's a lefty, of course, and I love seeing spectacular lefties, but he has, and I've mentioned this a couple times already, he has a spin rate on his fastball that you don't really see out of a lot of left-handed starters. Yeah. This is going to be some terrific stuff we see out of him, but he only pitches 1 day out of the 5-day rotations. What are we going to do without Justin Steele? Trying to manage without him, trying to manage even without Taillon, I think, will be interesting moving forward. Do you have any thoughts just about the Justin Steele situation?
Yeah, so that's going to suck, but if Luke Lill and Ben Brown can keep doing this little combo that they did on, Wednesday night's game against Colorado, we're going to be fine. And if they can just do that for a month, basically, is all we need them to do. Mm-hmm. We don't need them to be Cy Young Award every single time. We just need them to get outs, and then after the 4th or 5th inning, have only maybe 2 or 3 runs on the board. We're going to have a chance to win every single game.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been talking about pitching mostly on the offensive side. 2 guys that have stood out so far, Seiya Suzuki and Christopher Morel. Both of those guys are on fire. Seiya Suzuki is playing like our best player right now. You mentioned last week he needs to play like our best player, and he is currently right now. He just hit a homer last night. And then Christopher Morel, I think he has matured so much as a hitter. I saw a stat on Twitter that he's only swinging at about 4% of pitches that are outside of the strike zone right now. That's just great for a guy who last season, I'm pretty sure that was I didn't see anything what his stat would have been last year, but I guess it was probably like 30 or 40% of pitches seen out of the strike zone. So he seemed to have a better understanding of the strike zone as a hitter. This is just going to be a huge series coming up against LA at home, the Dodgers. I guess we'll see what type of Cubs team this is once they come. Jkruse, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, we will. The only thing with Morel is that he should not play defense anymore.
I don't think so either.
Which stinks. But he's already made, at least, they haven't all gone down as errors, but to me, he's already made 5 or 6 plays. Mm-hmm. And we're 7 games in, and I can already tell you about 5 or 6 plays where a below average fielder would have made them. But he's just a bad defensive player. He's really bad defensively, but he's been so good on offense that you can't not have him in the lineup. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the early challenges that Greg Counsell is going to face is if you don't put him in the field, that means you might have to put Nick Madrigal in there, and
he's a fine third baseman.
Which he is a fine third baseman, but that also screws guys like Mike Tauchman who should be getting at bats. So it just stinks. It just really stinks. I wish he was at least like an average defender over there, but whether it's the glove, throwing, he can't really do anything consistently well in the field. So that'll be a storyline surely to watch early in this season, how they decided to attack that.
Yeah, and I mean, something else just from what I saw last night, I don't think our bullpen is very good, really.
They've struggled.
I was just chatting with a friend and that I worked with last summer, and we were talking about some of these names that we were supposed to be good with the Cubs in our bullpen. They were the future at the time, but where have they gone? They just kind of disappeared. I have them highlighted here. You see them. Keegan Thompson made a couple starts in the 2021 season, was supposed to be the future of our Cubs bullpen.
He was good.
He was really good. Where's he at now? I honestly cannot tell you. I have no idea. He just kind of fell off a cliff. So did Brandon Hughes. Now, I do have an answer for the Brandon Hughes thing. He actually signed with the D-backs. Surprisingly, I had no idea until last night. He's in their farm club system. He was supposed to be really good too. He was good from what I saw. And then Cody Hoyer, he's had the injury bug the past 3 seasons. Yeah, he was in one of those trades with
He came over with Madrigal, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
We traded away Kimbrel. Yeah,
he was supposed to be like a closer type guy. Man, nothing from those guys this year, and we're not going to see anything from them this year. So. All those guys just kind of disappeared. We'll see how this Cubs team manages these next couple weeks. So
that we will.
We're going to get back to what you learned here. Sorry, unless you had anything else to say.
No, I don't. Let's go.
Okay. We're going to get back to what you learned here.
Now we're all back, folks. We're all back. Great MLB segment from JB and Jkruse.
That was.
We're going to go ahead and move on to what did you learn this week, right? Let's close out the show. Who wants to start? Joey B, Jkruse?
I can start.
Go ahead.
Let's go, Joey B.
This week, I watched probably more basketball than I ever have in a single week in my entire life. Right. I watched Illinois take down Iowa State. It was terrific.
That was a fun game.
That was a fun game. That was a really
good.
fun game. I was driving home, caught so I watched the finish of the Cubs game, right? That was opening day. And then I watched the second half because the Cubs game didn't finish until the first half ended of the Illini game that night. But besides the point, that was a terrific...
You were watching while driving?
I was not watching while driving. I watched it when I got back.
Oh, okay.
I obey the traffic laws, believe it or not.
I'm just joking around. Everybody knows that he loves the traffic laws.
Especially the seatbelt law.
Especially.
So I watched Illinois take down Iowa State. That was a terrific game.
It was.
Then a couple days later, UConn. Crazy good. Yeah. I did not quite fully understand the prowess that they're at right now. Just could you put it up there with like even I don't even know what I'm saying, like in professional sports, the type of dominance that we've seen like from other teams. I don't know another comparison off the top of my head, but they're just dominant.
There really isn't, though.
I'm gonna jump in here because it has to do with my what you learned.
Yeah.
Right. UConn during my lifetime, and this goes into like teams that I can't really remember. People talk about the 2012 Kentucky team with Anthony Davis, how dominant they were. For me, the only team that this UConn team compares to, in regards to my basketball knowledge and the teams I've watched, is that 2018 Villanova squad, where the tournament starts and it's a wrap. Everybody knows.
Bludgeoned everybody.
Like, it's going to be fine. It had Jalen Brunson, Dante DiVincenzo, Phil Booth reference, Omari Spellman. Come on, help me out here. Eric Pascal and Mikal Bridges. So they had like so many guys.
Well, daily everybody.
So they had so many guys that were so talented. That team had a lot more NBA talent.
Yes.
Than I think this UConn team does, but they're so deep. They're so deep. And to me, that's the only other school that I can think of where I'm like, okay, they rival each other in regards to the best teams I've ever seen play college basketball.
Yeah.
Do you have anything more to say with your what'd you learn?
No, I mean, I guess the thing that I specifically learned is that college basketball, and just basketball in general, is actually a lot more fun than I realized. Because I was actually catching myself trying to watch the Bulls, and I had mentioned before the pod, Alex Caruso. I don't really have good feelings about him anymore.
That's a new take, and we're gonna help you learn there.
I was trying to watch him shoot the 3-ball, and it just wasn't working out for him. He was playing the Hawks the other night. So whether it's NBA or college basketball, it's very fun. I was even watching NC State and Duke, and was it DJ Burns?
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
we already gave our thoughts on that during the college basketball segment.
Yeah, I don't want to bring it up again.
Basketball's fun.
Basketball is fun. It's funny. I'm kind of on I'm growing more as a baseball fan.
Yeah.
I don't know everything. I'm obviously clearly not as knowledgeable as you guys, but I'm still trying to get there. In my What'd You Learn, it's also Final Four related, and I just wanted to kind of give my assessment of like every team. Obviously, I gave my thoughts on UConn. Purdue, what I learned about Purdue is that college basketball is the only professional, or not professional, but is the only sport where you only have to get 1 foot outside the lane for it to reset the 3-second violation, which is why Zach Edey can just stand there the entire possession and just ruin teams like he did Tennessee. He could just spend 9 seconds in the lane, but because he gets a toe out, he's got a little toe out, he'll be fine. Yeah. I hate that. I learned that, and DJ Burns is a great guy. He's been shouting out the Duke players. He says no hate to Jared McCain. I've been saying this all year, so I didn't learn it, but Jared McCain is definitely the best player on his Duke team. Kyle Filipowski. We already talked about it all.
He died and came back to life.
Yeah. And then my last thing about Alabama isn't actually something that I learned. Funny enough, it's because I knew it. They were going to the Final Four, and they made those dreams come to reality. So I did have 3 of the Final 4 correct, and I'm proud on that.
That's
best I've
a
done
big
in a
accomplishment.
Right.
Who'd you have in the region that you didn't? Was that Kentucky?
I would have had Kentucky, and they lost their first round. So
Every time I think I've picked Kentucky to go to the Final 4 twice in my life, and they lost in the first round both times.
Yes, but no one would have had NC State.
No, nobody.
I mean, right?
No.
Very few.
Not going that far.
No way. What they've done is unprecedented. Jkruse, please tell me what you have learned.
So I'm famous on this podcast. Not actually famous. Famous for saying.
You're famous.
No.
You're famous.
I'm just gonna cut
famous
it.
for
Jkruse.
saying.
Everybody knows Jkruse on SIU
I'm
campus.
famous for saying that America loves to hate more than they love to love.
Springfield
Right,
legend.
and that's why last year's Final Four for the men's side had a little bit less intrigue because there was no hateable teams. Right. This year it's a little bit different. But I want to bring something up. America loves to hate, but they also love to feel bad for people who don't need feeling bad for. Like they like to create victims, right? So not only has this been a great year for the men's tournament, it's also been a fantastic year for the women's tournament.
Yes.
The most viewed women's game ever was this past weekend when Caitlin Clark in Iowa, Cole Daly's a big fan, played against Angel Reese in LSU. Did you guys see that interview that Angel Reese gave after the game?
Yes, I did.
Where it had, and she wasn't talking about basketball.
Nope.
She was talking about the fact that people have been hating on her, and her words, not mine. They were sexualizing her, despite the fact that she puts out all these photo shoots on her Instagram. And so it's like she just found a way to make it about herself. She found a way to take all of the attention away from the game. And
She says, I had an ankle injury, but I'm not going to make that an excuse about how whatever. That's not how making excuses work. You brought it up. If you didn't bring it up, that's not making an excuse. But
yeah, that was a pathetic interview. That was pathetic. Just take your L and go away. And I do think one thing that I do worry about for the future of women's college basketball is that it may not ever be as popular as it is now because people are just going to latch on to this Caitlin Clark Angel Reese rivalry into the WNBA and not keep the college game, I guess, at the forefront. But it has been an interesting last couple of years with all the attention that's been going on for women's basketball. So that is a really good thing for their sport. But yeah, I just don't understand why people, particularly athletes at this level, 3 million Instagram followers, and you feel the need to act like woe is me, or you aren't the cause for all the hate you're getting. Like you talk a lot more than other people do. Yeah. No, you bring all the attention on yourself, basically, and I just hate that sort of mentality.
You know who else has turned into that? Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it has nothing to do with college basketball and everything. We don't need to get into a huge discussion about it, but like a while back, he was like, I want everything that's non-football related outside of the locker room, and then runs for vice presidency.
Yeah.
And then he's everything that he's done on like the Pat McAfee podcast and everything like that. Everything he's shouting about, he's shouting that I don't want all this attention on me, and then he does these things that are very, very controversial, and it's like, really, bro? So, anyways,
it's like the prince and princess of England saying that they don't want privacy, and then
South Park episode.
Yes, that, and then they make a Netflix documentary about themselves. It's like, do you really want privacy, or do you just want more attention about how you want to be private? And then yes, the South Park episode came out where they're just banging on cymbals and playing drum sets outside. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, there's a lot of fake woe is me sentiment coming from people who have incredible lives and have only done this to themselves. So
I'd say. Yeah. Can I say 2 more things on that topic?
Ahead.
One, I don't want this to be the I Hate Angel Reese podcast because it isn't. This one isn't actually directed at her. But do you see Shaq's? Do you see what Shaq said like 2 days ago? He said Angel Reese is the best player, not woman, best player to ever come out of LSU sports, male and female.
Just like
she's gonna be the 7th pick. Like, Joe Burrow exists, Justin Jefferson exists, Jamar Chase exists, Tyrann Mateo.
That's the thing. That's the problem with what
Odell Beckham,
the growing popularity of women's sports.
Livy Dunn.
Yeah, it's not because people. Actually, it's less of that people are enjoying the game.
Sorry, Jkruse.
It just hit me like.
That's getting
It's
clipped
less
for the
that
TikTok.
people like the sports, and more. It's like a cult following now. Like Angel Reese has a cult following. Caitlin Clark, like you, are part of a cult following.
Okay, well,
You're part of a cult.
I'm not like the biggest Caitlin Clark fan ever exists. I'm just not a hater.
You did say
like
you would buy her jersey
Yeah,
and wear it.
it'd be cool.
Well, there's a difference between being part of the cult and just saying.
I'm not like, oh my god. You know what I mean?
Caitlin-
You hate her.
I don't hate her.
Yeah, huh? She also.
She is a flopper, but she did flop. She did
She is
a
a flopper.
Filipowski.
She's a flopper.
Her and Kyle Filipowski.
It's
By
just-
the way, did you know she's dating Connor McCaffrey?
Yes, I didn't know
I
that.
found that out when they were playing Illinois earlier this year. They just said it on the broadcast. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool. It's gonna be some athletic kids.
That'd be interesting, like Thanksgiving table conversation,
True.
intelligent basketball conversation.
Intelligent.
I don't,
Wait,
although
so
I
is
don't really
this-
know how logo threes are intelligent.
Is this
as well.
McCaffrey related to Christian?
No.
No. Okay.
There's like a different.
Iowa basketball is basically a family called the McCaffreys. Like the head coach
I
is
see.
Fran McCaffrey. His 2 kids played for him, and one of them dates Caitlin Clark.
I was gonna say because she's like a Chiefs fan, so I was like, if she's dating a guy that's related to,
No,
yeah.
Well,
don't worry.
Anyways,
It's been a very long. What'd you learn? But I think we've summed it all up. No.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was a good one.
It's been a great episode. It's been a great episode. So if you are listening to this on Spotify, please be sure to like the episode and then also follow us so that you know when we drop the episodes. You can do the same thing over on YouTube, like the episode, but this time subscribe and hit the bell notification once again, so you know when we drop an episode, which is typically Sunday morning. Saturday morning. Whoops, slipped up there. This has been episode 25 of the Inside Sports Podcast. DE is capitalized. I am your host, Cole Daly. Other host, Joy Bernard. Jkruse, just some guy. He's just here. So thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.